Hey guys, what's up? It's Greg Srzavosty with the Deepest Dream YouTube channel. For more movie and TV reviews and interviews, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for supporting it. And do you support Nicolas Cage? Do you like Nicolas Cage a lot? How much do you love Nicolas Cage? For me, I don't even know if there's a horrible Nicolas Cage movie. So take that into consideration when I talk to about my review for Sympathy for the Devil. There is a lot of bias. I always have a good time watching a Nicolas Cage movie. I think the last great one I've seen of his was maybe a couple years ago when he did that film Pig. Love that film. Now, Sympathy for the Devil is definitely not on the same level as Pig, but it's not really intended to be. It's sort of a grade B film noirish movie, and that's not saying bad things about it. It's just exactly where it's supposed to be. Sort of a gritty B noir film with Cage and Joel Kinnaman. They star in this movie, and it's directed by Yuval Adler, I believe. Yes, Yuval Adler. And I'm going to mention Adler in a second regarding the connection between this film and his previous film called The Secrets We Keep. We do know their names in the film, but this is sort of a two-hander. So all you need to know is the driver in this film is played by Joel Kinnaman, and the passenger, who is quote-unquote the bad guy, is played by Nicolas Cage. So the driver, Joel Kinnaman, passenger, Nicolas Cage. It centers on the driver at the beginning. He drops off his kid, his young son, to the grandma's house because his wife is expecting their second child. So he drives off, drops off his son, goes to the hospital, goes under the parking lot to actually go inside the hospital and see his wife, but he can't do that because the driver, again, played by Nicolas Cage, the passenger just shows up out of nowhere, goes in the back of the car and forces Kinnaman's character to drive off from the hospital and go to parts unknown. Now, the passenger is saying, hey, my wife's in labor. I need to be there when I see my kid. The passenger does not care. He has a gun. He's played by Nicolas Cage. It is an unhinged Nicolas Cage performance and character. So you know where that's going, where this movie is going. So right off the top, if you love unhinged Nicolas Cage, this movie should be in your wheelhouse. Whether you grade it high or low, it's still worthy because I'm sure some of you are just fans because of these kind of unhinged performances by Cage, and he actually covers all the bases here. He does some good monologues. There is a quasi sort of musical number in this movie, not more of a karaoke number. I'm not going to mention the name of the song, but he does it pretty well. There's a high rewatchability factor with Sympathy for the Devil because I'm sure there's a lot of Cageisms, especially with a certain animal, which amazing. I mean, there's so many memorable Nicolas Cage moments in this film, and I really enjoyed it. The movie can't really just rest on Nicolas Cageisms and him going off. The movie has to stand alone as a narrative, and for that, I feel it's nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, and that's not such a bad thing because it stays in its B-movie lane and it does everything fine. If there are any kind of cons for Sympathy for the Devil, it's like I didn't really feel any kind of sympathy for the devil. I didn't feel any really huge tension in this movie, even though the driver's life is in danger by the passenger. I didn't really feel nervous for his life. There's the ramping of the tension I wasn't unnerved by this film. And thrillers or noirish thrillers are supposed to unnerve you. Sympathy for the Devil doesn't unnerve me too much, but the storytelling execution, especially a really interesting set piece that takes place in a diner, is really well executed. I thought it was really well done on just a visual level for whatever budget Yuval Adler had. Now, what's interesting about this, the director Yuval Adler, his previous film was called The Secrets We Keep. And that also starred Joel Kinnaman. And in that film, he plays a alleged Nazi who is taken hostage by a suburban woman played by Noomi Rapace. And she believes he is the Nazi who tormented her during the war. She plays a Romanian in that film, Rapace. And the movie's called The Secrets We Keep. As of this recording, it's available to stream on Hulu. Now, if you see Sympathy for the Devil in the theaters or however you see it, I would recommend seeing both films if you want to actually tie these movies together on a thematic level, because for The Secrets We Keep, Joel Kinnaman is taken hostage, and in Sympathy for the Devil, he's taken hostage as well. So these are two hostage-esque movies directed by Yuval Adler, which has Joel Kinnaman basically playing the hostage in this movie. Now, he's not really taken hostage in The Sympathy for the Devil, he's really a captive hostage because he's driving the car most of the narrative, right? And he's trying to escape the passenger for Nicolas Cage, played by Nicolas Cage. I was really, as far as the rating goes, I would say most people would rate this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Just basically, it's a solid B thriller right down the line. It's not going to leave you with a haunting remembrance of this film. It doesn't resonate with you. In fact, the previous movie of Yuval Adler's, The Secrets We Keep, stayed with me more on a storytelling level. I really liked that. But that movie was made to stick with you on a longer basis. This is sort of a steak and potatoes, or actually popcorn kind of movie, which is fine. You're going to watch it, you're going to have a good time, everything's cool. So the normal rating would be 3.5 out of 5. I'm giving this movie 4 out of 5 because I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan. And again, this will have a huge rewatchability factor for me. When it comes out on Blu-ray or DVD, I will purchase it, and hopefully Yuval Adler will give an audio commentary on how we set up the shots. There are some really good, again, there's a diner sequence, there is some action set pieces, and the ending, the climactic ending, it is pretty well done as well. Solid performances from Cage and Kinnaman. I hardly mentioned Kinnaman's performance. He's sort of a cipher in this film. He's reacting to Cage being Cage as the passenger for Sympathy for the Devil until the inevitable third act when there is a reveal and the chess game, the chessboard is exposed and you see people for who they are. I think it's a really interesting turn. Now, if you actually saw Sympathy for the Devil, the trailer, I was thinking, is the Nicolas Cage character, I had my guesses. He might be an imaginary character, and it might be I'm not going to mention the movies, but it might be an imaginary character. And Joel Kinnaman, as a driver, is just imagining his evil doppelganger in the backseat of the car or something like that. I had these kind of guesses, or my guesses. I'm not going to tell you if my guesses were right or wrong. Check out the trailer. It's very mysterious, and it's very campy and very fun. And tell me if you actually landed on what happened regarding the end of Sympathy for the Devil. Again, this is a spoiler-free review, so I'm not going to mention what happens at the end. I was pleased with the third act wrap-up. I was pleased with the performances. And again, the only big complaint would be the peripheral characters, the supporting characters are not really well developed, but unfortunately they are at the whims of this chess game between these two men, and you're wondering which one of them is good, which one of them is evil. Are they both malevolent? Are they both violent? And these characters are sort of at the whim, and they're victimized by, who knows, by at least one or both of these people. Okay, so that would be the only con, but I understand why, again, because it's really focusing on these two men, and they're trying to outsmart each other and figure out who's going to survive the night. Maybe both of them will die, who knows. Okay, that is my review for Sympathy for the Devil. Again, Deepest Dream YouTube channel. I do a lot of exclusive interviews. Me and my buddy Eric Holmes, he and I and Bruce Perky host a weekly podcast called Cinematics. We cover weekly movies, new movies that are coming out every week. The second podcast is Find Your Film, which I have the shirt. Yeah, I just like the shirt. I'm not going to plug it. I love the shirt. It's Find Your Film podcast is basically, I'm trying to grow it out a little bit more. And it's basically houses the interviews that me and Eric Holmes do for Cinematics. So that's sort of a repository for our reviews or for our interviews. And then as well, I'm confusing, just basically 2 podcasts, Cinematics for movie reviews, for interviews, Find Your Film. And I'll be doing a lot more Blu-ray and DVD giveaways and reviews on the Find Your Film podcast as well. Thank you so much for liking this video if you can, or subscribing, or just bottom line, listening. And you know what? The most important thing, I want to hear your comments on Sympathy for the Devil. Does this movie work for you? Are you a Joel Kinnaman fan? Did you like The Secrets We Keep? Do you think it's a good feature? A lot of questions. Tell me what you think of this movie.